Hey everybody, welcome back to How to Make a Comic Book with me, KDZR. Today we are going to be working on the cover to Reboot Chapter 2. If you've been following along, you know that we've worked on working with the script, doing some layouts, measuring frames and panels, different drawing materials and papers and things like that. And so now we're going to actually put that all together and work on the cover. And that should be a lot of fun. I may split this up into two videos, just because, especially the cover, there's a lot that goes into that. Part of it is more of a graphic design side, but then there's also the drawing side, and I really like watching people draw, so maybe I might split that up into a special video just on itself, just the drawing side. But let's see what happens, see how it goes, see how much I can focus and get done. So, drawing the cover. Let's see. I got a nice stack of comic books here. Let's just grab this one. Let's see. Saga. Everybody knows this one. And you know, Popeye. This is just random comic books that I've bought over the last however many days, weeks, months. That one I think has a really cool cover. And there's a lot of different things that go into a cover. And if you're noticing, and I'm hoping you're paying attention, that the first thing you see, if these people did a good job of designing a cover, the thing that should really jump out at you, hopefully, is the title. So, front and center, big bold letters, you want to be able to see the title of your comic book, because it's going to be sitting on a shelf with, 100 other comics. And if you're going to pay any attention to it, if you have any chance of it being seen, then the title's got to jump out. It's got to be big, it's got to be bold, it's got to be easy to read. Look at this one. This was a great example of it. It's almost all there is just the title. The second thing you see, maybe, is the cover usually doesn't have a ton of stuff on it. It's usually not real busy. There are exceptions, like that one. Personally, I really don't like the cover to the Bitch Planet series, but, that's personal preferences. But a lot of times, if you notice, there's just a face, or just one focal point, really. There's not, look how easily that is read. It's easy to pick out your main characters. A lot of times it's a close-up of them. This one's a little bit busy, but at the same time it's still very easy to see the title. You can see your characters here and your main character and the big thing that's happening. They're all kind of surrounding him and drawing emphasis there. Same thing. Big, bold, easy to read. You could be way back and you'll see the name of that, and you'll see the main character, and you'll see that he looks kind of scary or whatever. Even older series, it's the same thing. Title jumps out at you. Now, if you're an important person such as Alan Moore, then the name of the artist and writer is also going to be pretty prominent. But what you'll notice is Vertigo, Image makes this one. I don't even see the I on there. So that's not as prominent typically. Marvel's fairly small. That's like the tertiary. First is the picture, maybe name, the artist, and then the company is pretty. Nickelodeon is pretty small there. So you'll kind of see that over and over again. You'll also want to notice that. If I can find one. There's also, so you typically have the title, some art, the issue number, the artist, a barcode, and the company. Marvel has this little bonus digital edition thing, and they're always trying to sell some extra stuff, so they've got that little thing on there. But that's pretty much essential. Every cover has that. Now, the only exception really is the barcode. Image and some of the other smaller companies, well, Image is actually pretty big, but more independent, typically put it on the back, whereas Marvel and DC usually put theirs on the front. There's pros and cons to each. Obviously, if the UPC barcode is on the front, then it's going to hide some of the art. So if you design around that and just know that it's going there, it's make sure it doesn't cover up anything important. The benefit of that, though, is if you've got your comic book bagged and boarded, if it's on the back, you can't scan it to either sell it or archiving or whatever it is. But if it's on the front, then you can easily scan it and not have to open it or mess up your tape or potentially risk damaging the book or anything like that. So it's really just up to you. That's a choice that you have to make where you want to put it. But you kind of want to know that before you start designing your comic book. Otherwise, if you put something important there or wherever, you need to know that. You have to design for it. So those are things that you kind of have to keep in mind. Now, just like there's a few different styles. I personally, this is one of my favorite covers. And it's Goners is the name of the series. You got the image icon, or not icon, logo up here, the artist. Everything is really just all about this big monster on the front. And I love that. And I think there was only maybe 6 or so to this series. I don't know if it's still going, but I haven't seen anything in a while from these guys. But everyone had these big monster guys on the front cover. And just huge title. And I think it looks really cool, and that's kind of my favorite style, just something really simple like that. The Red Wolf one also, same thing. It's more abstract. It doesn't really tell you what the series is about, though. It looks cool. It gets your attention. Trees is one of my favorites as well. And looking at that, you really have no idea what this story is about. You know what the name is. It, in my opinion, looks really cool. The image logo, if you notice, is actually lined, just like an outline. It's very subtle. I think the whole thing looks amazing. But you don't really know what it's about. This one, I love it for a lot of reasons. One, I really like the art of this series. This one, it's very clear what the title is, although this is an alternate cover, so I think the title's actually I Hate Fairyland. But still, you know exactly what it is. You got the artist there, the logo is small, the issue number and price, prominent piece of art, and even though you may not know exactly what this book is about, you have a very strong idea of the feel and personality of this book. It's like we've got a little girl, and she does not like Fairyland. And you could probably guess that this is going to be funny, kind of weird, obviously profane, and you got a really good idea of the attitude and personality and the idea of the book. And I think that's important to convey, especially with a new series. And this is issue number 1, so it doesn't have anything to build off of. I mean, Batman, everybody knows what Batman's about. You could put anything. But a new series, you really want to put a lot of thought into what the attitude is. And so this is issue number 1 of Reboot. And I put the barcode on the back is what I think I'm going to do. This one actually doesn't have it. So this was actually just my test piece called the preview issue, so it doesn't have all that stuff yet. The full chapter 1 will be out pretty soon. But I think that it does a good job of conveying the personality and theme of not just this one issue, but the series as a whole. As this is the first book, and it's an unknown series, I really wanted to capture the essence of what this whole series is about, not just the first issue. Going forward, issues 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever else, I'll probably focus those covers more on that specific issue. But in this one, so you basically, the premise of the story is you have a little boy who's alone in the desert, and he's got monsters he's dealing with, and it's kind of a scary place and things like that. And he eventually ventures off into the city, which is also a scary place. not like horror movie, but just for a child scary. So I think this does a good job of showing the setting. He's in the desert. He is alone. By his proportions, you can see he's a little boy, or at least a young child. I guess it could be a girl. The cities in the background is kind of in the distance, but it's all black and kind of far away. There's a shadow of a monster, so you know something is lurking and ominous, and there's some danger, and you know, it's a little bit of mystery. And also the colors are kind of weird. The sky's not blue, and I don't know if people pick up on that and just think it's like an artistic thing, or what happened to the sky? Why is it that weird gray color? So there's a lot of stuff happening there that I think help to paint the picture of what this series is going to be about. And I would hope that it would catch people's attention. You also got LaCirqueStudios.com. Yeah, the barcode will be. I actually haven't decided. I left space for it to go here, but I may put it on the bag because I don't know if I want to cover up my art. Undecided. We'll see what happens. The artist name, and I need to put pricing on there, which will probably go right about there. And this says preview, but that'll say chapter 1 there for the issue number. So, now that I've kind of talked a really long time about current covers and what I think is cool about them, I'm going to show you this one. This one, I really like that one. Deadpool's kind of, I actually don't like the series, but I like, I don't know, I like the way he looks. I like his covers. I think Deadpool's a cool character, even though he never shuts up. So, for issue 2, or chapter 2 of Reboot, if you've read chapter 1, and you should have by now, then you know that at the very end of the book, the main character, a little boy named Mustard, has stumbled into some danger. I'm going to try not to give any spoilers away. Last 3 pages, he comes into some sort of danger, and now he's got to run for his life. And so the majority of issue 2, he is trying to escape. Issue number 1 was pretty low-paced. This one we got a lot of action. So I've already done some brainstorming, a few different options, and I hope the glare isn't too bad. So Mustard, he actually is pretty good at running from people. He lives in a post-apocalyptic world where most people are quite dangerous and a threat to him, and he's just a kid, so fighting really isn't an option. His really only recourse is to run. So he's gotten really good at running, and he's basically doing parkour a lot of times. So he spends a lot of time in this book running and jumping and dodging, crawling. At one point he's on a roof and he's jumping from roof to roof. So I feel like I wanted to convey that action in the cover, to show that this one's going to be more action-packed and he's running and he's scared. So there's also a dust storm going on. So with this one, he's on the roof, and at the end of the book, there's a lot of fog and smoke, or not smoke, but fog and dust, and so I've kind of got like a tornado, whirlwind thing going. Here he's standing on a roof, kind of looking determined. That's the corner of the roof, because these are just quick thumbnail sketches. I don't know how clear they are. And then here's some rooftops, but the bottoms are kind of hidden in all that fog, and you know, maybe there's another whirlwind going. And then the title. Now the Cirque Studios would come in down here, but that doesn't leave room for the barcode over there, so it would be covering up part of Mustard, and I really don't want to do that. So that one doesn't work for me, and I think it looks dynamic with the whirlwinds, but they actually aren't in the book, so I just thought it looked cool. So this one just doesn't really work all that well. Your title doesn't always have to stay at the top. Like something like Rumble, it goes along the side. It's a vertical. I think that looks really cool, grabs a lot of attention. And some other series as well, they may move trees, you know, they've got on the bottom, and I believe on other issues they bring it up to the top. So it just kind of depends. So this one I was kind of putting at the bottom, just to be different, but also to put the emphasis at Mustard on the top, where he's on a roof and he's actually jumping down. I'm thinking he's jumping down into just like a poof of clouds and fog or whatever, and he's just going to disappear into it. And then the logo would go up here. Maybe would move the barcode up here. That's an option. I don't like it as much as this one, actually, but here's one where we've got the title up top, and he's jumping from roof to roof. Now this is something that happens quite a bit in this book, and well, it happens enough, so I think that's really representative of this particular chapter. We've got the fog and smoke or whatever at the bottom. There's room for the barcode, there's room for the logo, and we've got these ominous eyes. Am I using the word ominous right? I don't know. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. So that one I think kind of works, but this one was my favorite. It's similar to this one. We've got the fog at the bottom and a couple of buildings, but just the way that he's jumping is a little bit different. It looks more dynamic to me. It's zoomed in a little bit closer, and I think the way I'm going to do it is I'm not even going to show this building, and it may go all the way up to the top, like he's really making a jump, and kind of more of a parkour style of jump, and the shadow of that monster in the background. This guy. Now, part of the reason why I put all these comic books out to show you is you definitely want to draw inspiration from the things that you like. So, I'm going back and forth a little bit, but let me find this one. I know it's in the stack here. And so this concept was inspired in part by this cover to Rumble. Rumble's one of my favorite series, by the way, so you should pick that one up and read it if you're not. But I really like that he's just kind of flying through the air, and you've got the cityscape down here. You don't know what he's jumping off of or anything, but he's clearly, it's very dynamic. The buildings are at an angle, he's kind of at an angle. I think it looks really cool. And so, even though this cover isn't an exact copy of it, it was definitely inspired by it. I'm like, I like this, so how can I take what I like about this and apply it to what I'm doing? And it's not plagiarism. You don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to trace this and make it exactly the same, but I want to use this to inspire me to create something of my own. So yeah, there's a big difference. Artists inspire each other all the time. You can draw inspiration from anything and everything, but you don't want to plagiarize. So, this is the direction that I'm going to go in. I haven't decided exactly how this building is going to come, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to show that building at all. I'm going to have the smoke down here, or fog, whatever. Not a super close-up, but a fairly close drawing of him just kind of flying through the air there. And let's see, do I want to put the title up top or bottom? I haven't decided yet. I'll decide as I'm drawing. Let's see what happens. Okay, so now we do have to do a little bit of measuring here to get the size. Now, because it's the cover, and you really want the art to look good, I would recommend using big paper and actually drawing bigger than to scale. The other pages, when I was drawing, I drew them the exact size that it was going to appear on the page. So I actually, took these dimensions and, you could fit 2 pages on here, and that was it. With the cover, though, I could just put it to size. I could, but you're wasting a lot of paper there if you do that. You got extra space. So if you can make it bigger, then that gives you more room to draw. You can put more detail in and, you know, take advantage of the space that you have. So I did a little bit of math already. Double the size won't fit, but 1.5 size will. So the size that my comic books are, and I believe this is standard, is 6.625 by 10 by 10.25. Multiply that by 1.5 and you get 9.937, which is 9 15/16 by 15.375, which is 15 3/8. You can use a calculator to figure that out. If you're good at math and fractions, you can also figure it out that way. But I'm not going to go step through that because this is not a math lesson. So I'm going to try to make this quick just to mark this off. So I got my frame here, and it's about 1.5, or not about, it's 1.5 times the size that the cover should be. And that way, when we scan it in, we can put it in the computer and we can shrink it down, and it'll be super high resolution and beautiful. And I haven't read this one yet. And it'll be easier to draw because it's bigger, and we get more details and things like that. Because I hate drawing small. So, like I said in my materials video, I like to draw with the blue pencil, and there's a few different reasons why I like to do that. Here's the original drawing for Reboot number 1. Now, and you can see I didn't do this one as big because I didn't think of it, and I don't think I had the big paper yet when I drew this. But I draw in the blue pencil because, well, a few different reasons. One, it's kind of a standard thing. People often draw in blue pencil in various design and illustration fields. It's kind of easy on the eyes and looks nice. But for comic book illustration in particular, it's useful because when you scan these drawings into the computer, if that's what you plan on doing to color, which is what I plan on doing, I scan it in Photoshop, and then I can easily remove all of these stray blue lines, only leaving the black ink. Whereas if you use a black pencil or gray, I guess, graphite colored pencil, it's going to be a lot more difficult to separate that. So you can see all the construction lines, you can see all the little stakes, you can see where my borders are, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this when I color. But when I scan this in, I can select just the black, and then it'll pull only black lines and then delete everything else. So the white background will disappear, all these blue construction lines will disappear, the red will disappear, leaving me only with black lines. And then it's really easy and nice to color. So that's why I do that. But it doesn't have to be blue. It could be red, it could be green, it could be purple, whatever it is you want to color with, just as long as it's not black. And again, that's really just if you plan on scanning it in and using the same method that I use to color. If you've got another plan, by all means use a black pencil or whatever you want. This is just, again, the way that I work, and that's what I'm showing you guys. So I personally don't like drawing with red. I've tried it. I like red as a color, but I find it to be kind of abrasive on my eyes when I'm drawing, and just blue just looks nice. So I take blue lead and I put it in a mechanical pencil. That way I can keep a nice even point, and I don't have to spend a lot of time sharpening because that's just annoying. Just a few clicks and I've got a new piece of lead, and it for the most part stays pretty consistent line. And so that's what I like, and that's what I do. Start drawing this guy. I still am undecided if I'm going to go top or bottom, but I'm leaning towards the top just because this is a new series, and I want it to be kind of consistent in look and become more familiar to people before I start changing things. Realistically, it shouldn't confuse people because it's the same title and everything, but at the same time, just want to be safe and keep things consistent at first. So I'll probably put it at the top, but the way I'm going to draw this, it really isn't going to matter because I don't plan on putting a background on the top half. There's really just going to be smoke at the bottom. So again, with the beauty of computers and Photoshop, if I change my mind and decide that I want to make this, put the title up at the top, then all I have to do is just kind of crop it differently, and there'll be less smoke at the top and just more blank space up top. Or sorry, less smoke and fog down here, and more blank space up here, and I can just put the title up there. If I decide I want to put it at the bottom, I just leave that there and throw it down there. So I don't have to decide yet, is I guess what I'm saying. But I'm gonna space it for right now as though I'm going to put it at the bottom, just so that I have more fog to work with later on. So, there's something called the rule of thirds, if you haven't heard of that, where if you look at this, mustard is not centered in the page, and you find the center of anything by just making an X at the points. And wherever the X is, where they intersect, that's your center. So if we do it that way, there's our horizontal center line and vertical center line. If you look at this, the main attraction is not dead center, and you rarely want it to be dead center. There are exceptions. Again, I'm pulling this one out, and it's dead center. This one, it's pretty centered. That one, it's pretty centered. And sometimes that's what you want. More often than not, though, it's not centered. You got some stuff at the bottom, you got some stuff on the side, you got it off of the right or top, and it usually makes it more dynamic. Asymmetry, look at this one. If you make the X here, he's not centered. He's actually slightly off center this way, and he's above the center line. Again, they're off center. The center line's going to be there and there. Well, actually, the gun point is almost at the horizontal, but the main character, his eyes, his head, and even the gun, the tip of the gun is not dead center, because it usually makes it more dynamic. There are exceptions where you want it to be centered. Again, this is a great example of it being centered, but you typically want to use the rule of thirds, which is basically dividing your, I'm drawing on top of this a little too much. You want to divide the page into thirds, either vertical thirds or horizontal thirds, or possibly both. And let's see. So, just grab it. So, if you So if we divide this into thirds, which would be about here and here, and then again about here and here, let's say roughly. Not my straightest lines ever. Anything you draw, I shouldn't say that, but oftentimes it's going to be more dynamic if you put your focus point here, or here, or here, or here, instead of dead center right there. Even if you go centered but still on this line, that's more interesting. So if I'm drawing, just say, a guy's face right here, and see, he's kind of on the lower third and off to the side a little bit. And if that's your piece of paper, that looks a lot more interesting than if you were to put him dead center there. Now, again, it does matter. It does depend on what the emotion you're trying to convey and the reasoning that you're doing it. if it's an action shot, you definitely don't want to be I shouldn't say definitely. There's always, as long as you have a good reason, as long as you're aware of what you're doing and doing it for a reason, then it's fine. But just be aware of it, because that's a great example. This doesn't need to be off-centered. She's got the crazy teeth and what do you call that when you raise one eyebrow? It's kind of like a smart alecky, sarcastic, evil, crazy eyes and hair. She's got the double middle fingers. She's got a smiley. There's a lot of stuff happening here to make this interesting and dynamic. You don't need to shift her off to the side. Putting her big and bold centered is perfect. This, because it is more dynamic, it's more of an action type of thing, it looks better. It would still work if it was centered, I suppose, but going into that third, bringing that focal point right here into this third of the page just gives it that much more drama and excitement. And so if you can see the difference here, to me this obviously looks better. And it's a simple trick, and this is great for comic books. This is great for just graphic design in general. The rule of thirds is something that you need to put into practice. So there we go. So now I don't actually draw lines to divide, because it's not something that's precise. Like, no one's breaking out a ruler. Let me see, make sure. You can just kind of look at it typically. Although maybe some people who are, I'm not that picky. So I usually just kind of like, okay, to me it looks right for him to be right about here. Like, that feels right to me.